Calling the Sequoia Union High School District Board Meeting into order for March 20th, 2024. And so we got to see if there's any public comments before we go into closed session. Laura, are there any?
I see no public comments.
Okay, thank you so much. We are dismissed for closed session. I'll wait till the sound is down. Thank you to everyone who is present for our meeting today on March 20th, 2024 for the Sequoia Union High School District Regular School Board meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'm going to call to order our public session and see if there's any, oh no, I already did that, sorry. Where am I at, y'all? For our public session today, we are going to do a roll call, correct? Okay.
Student trustee Agarwal.
Here.
Student trustee Yuryev.
Here.
Trustee Ginn
Here.
on Zoom. Trustee Dubois. Trustee Ku.
Here.
Trustee Nori. Vice President
Here.
Nori. On Zoom. President Stevenson. A quorum is present.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to do the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any comments or would like to wish to pull any item from the agenda today? No one sounds like we want to do that. So can we do the approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda. A second.
And then we do all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And the report out of the closed session, there is no report out today. So thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Leach for special recognitions.
Yes, thank you. Tonight, we would like to recognize two amazing staff members from Tide Academy. Bilingual resource teacher, Carmen Gutierrez, who is on Zoom. Carmen on Zoom. I don't see her quite yet. And Dahlia. Yes. I would like to invite Principal Simone Rick-Kennel to the podium to share more details of their great works at Tide.
Thank you, Superintendent Leach. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I would love to tell you about our amazing bilingual resource teacher, Carmen Gutierrez, and our site parent liaison, Dalila Amesqua. They are a dynamic duo who support our students and parent community. As we know, a big goal for our district is parent engagement and support for our emerging multilingual learners. Tonight, I'm pleased to tell you about these amazing staff members who make this happen every day. Carmen is our bilingual resource teacher. As our BRT, Carmen has supported our emerging multilingual learners, providing support for their academic success. She worked diligently to ensure students who were eligible were reclassified this year. This year, 8 of 24 emerging multilingual learners are now redesignated fluent English proficient. Furthermore, she ran a smooth LPAC testing process and additionally runs the ELAC meetings with Dalila, our parent coordinator. She puts much thought into what parents need and what they ask for. So after staff was trained on restorative practices, Carmen organized 2 sessions for our parents this spring to build toolkits to understand and address conflicts within the home between parents and their adolescents. So she organized, so tomorrow evening, there will be our first of 2 sessions for parents with Alejandro Vilches, who we contracted with for restorative practice training for staff. She also organizes all of our school-wide events, including our now annual ofrenda for Dia de Muertos, and collaborates with classified and certificated staff for lunchtime events. She is a rock star Spanish teacher as well and has added much to our program, including teaching dual credit Spanish second semester. So Tide's very fortunate to have Carmen, a Sequoia High alum, and developing our own teacher on our team. So congratulations to Carmen. I do know she was going to try and join by Zoom this evening. And Dalila, our bilingual site parent liaison, who is here this evening. She takes parent engagement to the next level. With Carmen, she runs ELAC meetings with personalized, focused agendas that are responsive to parents' needs and requests. Last semester, she co-facilitated the first parent project with Tide families with the Menlo Atherton Parent Coordinator. And this semester, she launched our very own parent project at Tide with a record 10 families who signed up. Every Monday, they're going through the program with Dalila. She has also been instrumental in helping families complete online registration. During the open enrollment period, she prioritized appointments to support families with the process, spending an hour to 90 minutes to help them out. She also followed up with families if they were missing any documents. She consistently supports teachers to make phone calls and schedule meetings with parents. And on February 29th, when we hosted our Take the Leap event for families who received open enrollment transfers, we sent our flyer to advertise. But during midwinter break, Dalila made personal phone calls to every parent to invite them to the event. And as a result, we had a record turnout. And never mind, she has called for the ELAC meeting tomorrow and got a great response today. So another thing, just to understand the human element, to attend our Take the Leap event, one parent and her son walked to Tide in the rain. It happened to be a very raining evening that night with a small umbrella. By the time they arrived, they were soaked. Dalila noticed this and offered kind support, and following the event, drove them home. I don't think I can convey more about how amazing parent support is at Tide, and that is due to Dalila's work. So we're fortunate to have Dalila, a district parent and also a Sequoia High School graduate. So thank you, Carmen and Dalila, for having such an impact on the experience of families and students at Tide.
Thank you so much, Simone, for that. All right. So now we're going to go to public comments. The board does not act upon anything that is not agendized except under limited circumstances as permitted by law. It is the policy of the board to refer matters raised in the forum to staff for investigation and or action when appropriate. Board policy ordinarily limits the time to be devoted to any single agenda item to 10 minutes, and individual speakers are ordinarily limited to 3 minutes. If the board decides to expand the amount of time to be allocated to a particular agenda item because many speakers wish to address the item, the board may reduce time allocated to individual speakers to 2 minutes or 1 minute as appropriate in order to permit more speakers to comment. The board will announce the amount of time to be allocated to each speaker before the public meeting on each particular item before each particular item begins, sorry. We ask all speakers to keep their time within the time limit. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura. Do we have any public comments on non-agendized items?
I have no comment cards in person. There is one hand up in Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lauren, you're up first. And the only one up. Lauren, are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. At the very end of the last board meeting, President Stevenson asked the board if they would like to have a study session or receive information on how the school district can make a safer environment for BIPOC teachers. She stated clearly that she is incredibly concerned and preoccupied by this. What was the response? Silence, disinterest, or pushback from every other member of this board. And what a crystal clear message that was. And we wonder why we're having trouble recruiting BIPOC teachers and staff. I was really shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but by the lack of accountability, the lack of care, the lack of empathy. You're in positions of privilege and you have a power to make a difference. Even if you cannot enact specific policies, you can lead by example. And this should not all fall on the shoulders of the one Black woman on the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
No.
All right, thank you for your comments. We are now moving on to board trustee correspondence. I do not have any. I don't believe I have any this week. Okay, and so now we'll go on to board of trustees and superintendent comments, committees and reports. I'm going to start with the folks online because I don't want to forget anybody. I'm going to start with Rich and then Suffolk. Rich, do you?
I have no committee reports to report on it today.
Okay, thank you. Suffolk?
Yeah, so I don't have committee reports, but this is also for regular comments too.
Yes, this is true.
Okay. Yeah, so I have two things to share. One is I got the chance to participate in CSBA's annual legislative action week last week. So I got the chance to talk with Assemblywoman Pappen, who represents say a solid majority of our district in the state assembly. And we shared some talking points with her specifically regarding things such as bills such as addressing the significant number of reports required of local educational agencies like SUHSD, and really asking the State Department of Education to kind of do a self-audit to understand what's currently required and, you know, how much of it is redundant and how much of it is actually necessary to help students versus, you know, taking away administrative and staff time from much greater problems that they could be working on. We also asked her to support a placement of a public school facilities bond on the November 2024 ballot to help ensure that school districts across our county or across our state have access to high quality facilities. And we also asked her to support AB 2831, which is related to the office, which is related to helping small school districts, especially those in more rural areas, have the support they need for facilities and construction support. So I just want to share that. It was a really fun experience, and I enjoyed engaging with our state politicians who are, you know, by and large very supportive of our work and, you know, trying their best to help us as much as possible in Sacramento. The second thing I want to share is I was invited to an event last week with a family member of someone who's currently being held hostage in Gaza, and it was an incredibly emotional event for everyone who was able to attend. There were a lot of local politicians there to just hear the story of this person whose brother was, you know, kidnapped from the music festival. And it was very moving for me, very emotional, and very sad to kind of reflect on the pain that his family felt and the pain that I'm sure so many others of family members of hostages felt, along with everyone who was harmed by that conflict. So it was a good moment of reflection for me, and I think it can be one for our entire district as to what we can do to address people's pain in this conflict and really humanize it to kind of understand the real faces and stories of people behind this terrible, terrible situation that's happening right now. So I was very grateful to have the opportunity to attend the event. I learned a lot, and it kind of something that I'll remember his story with me as I move forward in this role. So those are the two things I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee. Trustee Dubois?
Yes, last night I attended the student-run sustainability committee, and I learned that there's going to be a climate-ready school symposium for district leaders. It is going to be held at the San Mateo County Office of Education, Tuesday, April 30th, from 9 a.m. to 1:30. This convening is meant for superintendents, school board members, chief business officials, food service and maintenance and operation leads, principals, and also teacher leaders. So I signed up, and I encourage other leaders in the district to also sign up. It'll make our students very happy if there's a few people at that. Yeah, it's just one page. And then also I wanted to alert everybody that the San Mateo County School Boards Association next Monday is doing a meeting on the topic of MTSS, and it was organized by Chelsea Bonini. Love to see you guys there as well. And then also Saturday is the OAA conference. I will be there all day, and I encourage all school board members to attend at least a portion of it. It's just such a great opportunity to spend the day with our kids. Thanks.
Thank you so much, trustee Koo.
I think I'm supposed to be on the sustainability committee, but I never get invited. I'm probably left off the.
Yeah, actually, I'll deal with that too because I'm still on the email address. So I'll actually
okay.
follow up with that after the board meeting.
Okay, we'll have to sort that out because we switched and they're still sending it to the old contact. Okay. I think for me, I was able to join the second half of the virtual strategic plan community forum. So it was helpful to hear some of the feedback firsthand. And some of it was, identifying where things were clear or unclear, impact of certain word choices and orders of priorities, potentially symbolizing order of importance. So those were the things that kind of were bubbling up. I can't stop by the in-person forums, but I appreciate everyone taking their time to participate in them. And I know there's one more, right, in East Palo Alto on the 28th, right? So then that's the last in-person community forum. The surveys have closed, so can't wait to see the results of that and how many people actually participated, and hopefully we get some good feedback from the community, but really appreciate everyone's engagement on it. And then I also know that this is open house time, so I'm looking forward to going to an open house and checking out one of the schools. So hopefully everyone gets a chance to check out an open house as they're happening.
Thank you so much. I wanted to kind of share my appreciation for those who recognize that my passing of my aunt, which means I have been like out of it for like the last week or two, trying to care for a lot of things. And so I appreciate those who saw my humanity and just doesn't see me as a board member, but as a person who has family and losses and all kinds of stuff. But I spent the time celebrating her life the way that we do in my particular family and culture, with memories, laughter, and tears, and specifically trying to honor her during Women's Month. This is still Women's Month for the next week and a half. And that really looking at her because she was an instructional aide in an education. And so many people got up and talked about how she had a firm hand with love. And so we kind of laughed about that, some of the stories that she carried. So I was really blessed to go home and spend some time with some of my elders who are probably late 70s, early 80s, and have an aunt that's in her 90s. So it was really good to see that. I was invited to judge National History Day. Before I left, a parent invited me because they didn't have enough judges. So I went to judge. I know nothing about how to judge history, so it was really interesting. Learned a lot. Miss Olson was there, who is a TOSA, I think, in the main office here from MA. And she loves history, I tell you. So it was a great example of hands-on learning that includes critical thinking and project-based work. I mean, it was actually fantastic. I didn't know if I was going to be excited, but I was excited after leaving there. And I think some middle college folks were there, some folks from Woodside, MA. And they do this National History Day, and it's for middle school as well as high school. And so I'm going to share it with our 2x2 at Menlo Park and Ravenswood, because I think it's actually pretty interesting to begin to get those critical thinking skills, but also how this can be a part of some of the other work that we do, where kids can get acknowledged for the work that they do in ethnic studies or some of the other history programs that we have. So just wanted to share that with you. And then I went to Dreamers United. They had an alumni. We have this every year for some of our individuals who don't have papers or are undocumented, and they're trying to navigate school, basically. Education, America's education, which is not different, is very different across our country, across our world. And so they had an alumni panel from San Francisco State, UC Davis, Kenyatta, and even one of our own staff who have went through one of the high schools, and then they were like, "Oh, you work here." And so it was kind of exciting to see her give back. And they're like, "Oh, you did this," right? Which is something about representation of hiring local as well, because then you see yourself in people. And I'm one of those folks, I like focus groups. I think they're really great, and I think it's what we need to do. But I'm also one of those parents that show up and say, "What you doing? Tell me what you think." And I put them on a. Yes, I do. Hot seat. Because I want to know like what your first reaction is. That really tells you how you feel. And so that's what I asked. Another board member from a different district asked her to translate. And the students were like, "Huh." And so they told me what to share with the board. So I thought I'd share it with you. They said teachers need support. They seem stressed with the number of students. All teachers need to learn about diversity and the struggles of the students and what they deal with. Teachers teaching too many classes, give teachers support. I was like, man, y'all, I said, that somebody been talking to y'all. I'm looking at Edith. Edith, because this was at Sequoia. So I'm like, did Edith tell them? Anyhow, we asked them what helped them. And they said, we liked our AP and IB and college courses. So some of the concurrent classes and things of that sort. And they said it made it easier to go to college as far as taking a class. But they said we needed support with learning the social environment. And I thought that was like pretty, they were like, yeah, we got on there and we could do good in class, but like, where do I go? I'm like a fish out of water, right? But was told to ask and reach out to different resources. So I thought that was really good feedback for us. Sometimes it's not what we're planned to say, but what people say off the cuff. And parents were taking notes. It was really interesting. And then the last thing is, because we do the 2x2 with Ravenswood, Ravenswood is debuting their learners profile, and they're going to have an ongoing committee to kind of continue to help them implement, which I've signed up for, just to make sure that the high school voice is there. So I just wanted to share those 3 things that I thought were a standout, and I look forward to going to the open houses. And I'm going to connect with Woodside, so I'm excited to see what our programs are doing. So thank you. All right. Where are we at on the agenda? Oh, yes. Both student trust. Oh, sorry. I was looking at, okay. Go, Crystal.
Okay. I actually had some opportunities to get to some school sites last week, so that was really nice. Always the best intentions, and then meetings just happened to pop up on my calendar. But last Friday night, I was able to attend Woodside's production of Footloose. And I do always like refer to myself as like a Converse girl, but I am definitely on a hunt for a pair of red cowgirl boots. So if anyone finds any, please send me the link. I do want to thank Trustee Nori for your advocacy. And just you sharing, I was looking over at cabinet and I was seeing a lot of heads shaking yes to the amount of regulatory documents, two of which appear later on the agenda tonight. And I'm sure there are probably others, but two definitely come to mind. So thank you for your continued advocacy. Carrie, we actually have a team going to the climate symposium. We have food service representation and we have both business office and Christine, Benita. And wow, we're sending a full team. So I thought that would make you happy. And I don't want to steal our student trustees' thunder, but I must say I really enjoyed the SAC meeting last night. It flowed a little differently. I'm not really sure because we just had like this one topic that we kept coming around to. But it definitely filled my bucket for the week. So thank you, Sahara, and we missed you, Jacob, last night.
Oops, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to both our student trustees.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. So like Superintendent Leach mentioned, we had a great SAC yesterday. Our main topic was stress. And so we covered stress from a lot of different angles, especially pertinent as the year is kind of coming to a close, the quarter's ending, AP season is coming up. So just a few pieces of feedback from our students to bring to the board's attention. One, there was a lot of talk of a kind of lack of teaching of time management skills and also study skills for a lot of students in the SAC kind of experienced the consequences of not really knowing how to study for a test or manage their time properly later on in high school when the workload gets heavier. So there was this idea of possibly implementing more of those lessons earlier on, like in the life skills course in freshman year. And then also the idea of just messaging to teachers about the tardy policy between classes. There's a lot of like linking of grades to student behavior in which a lot of students had like 50% off taken off their homework for being tardy, not during the beginning of the day, but just from another class across campus, or they were let out late or anything like that. There's also this idea of AP focus week, so kind of simulating finals focus week before AP season to just give students a little more time to study and breathe. And also allowing students to go to the library during finals focus week to do work, study, relax, whatever they kind of need to do. There was some talk of like TRC or pause or the kind of those wellness spaces at different schools having so many rules that students felt more stressed when trying to use them, which is obviously not the intention. And then the last thing was having those longer lunches for finals prep during finals focus week. So when we take, time away from announcements or have shorter passing periods in order to have like feel good Friday lunches, having more of those to give students time to relax or do homework. And then unrelated to SAC, MA is having their open house tomorrow, and also as Trustee Koo was saying, so are the other schools this week. So just thank you to all of the teachers working so hard to put those together.
Don't have much to say except for that after last board meeting, we really wanted to focus on student stress, and that was the reason for the agenda at the SAC meeting. And so we got a lot of really good data and I heard we had really good discussions. So we're excited to use that data for positive change.
Thank you. Now we're going to turn it over to Eva Salvatore with Sequoia District Teachers Association.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. I will take no responsibility whatsoever for the comments of the Dreamers group. It has nothing to do with the fact that the Dream Club meets multiple times a week right across the hall from my classroom. It definitely doesn't. I'm not in there. But it is a wonderful event, and I'm so glad you were able to attend. I think that listening to the description of the Student Advisory Council, I'd like to, just off the cuff right now, suggest that perhaps we have a Teachers Advisory Council where we discuss stress among teachers, and what possible solutions we have for that. One of the solutions that we have for some, of the stress of, as our superintendent calls it, the 100 Days of March, was we had an SDTA get together last Friday in Redwood City. We had about 50 or 60 of our members attend. A lovely time was had by all. And I think it is definitely something we need to do more of. My first year teaching, I was at a school, very well-resourced school with very high test scores. And this is 30 years ago, so that's when that's all that really mattered to get a really good WASC. Was your test scores look good and nobody said anything embarrassing during the visit. And I came the next year. I was hired the year after they got this really good WASC. And the recommendations of the WASC team were that everyone needed to not work so hard, that admin should consider putting limitations on how early and how late staff could be at their site because people were working too hard, and that we needed to get to know each other and have fun together more. And so over the past 30 years, WASC has apparently stopped giving feedback like that. But I think that our staff, our sites, and definitely our students could benefit if we had a little more fun time together and we were able to build a little more community. We tackle a lot of really difficult, really challenging, and like Trustee Nori mentioned, sometimes really heartbreaking issues in our day-to-day work. And sometimes you need to just have fun. So hopefully we can build that into our strategic planning in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just in case the American Federation State and County Municipal Employees AFSCME is here, I don't think they are online either. Okay. So now we're going to do the approval of the consent agenda. And so board action to approve the following items is taken simultaneously with one motion, which is not debatable and requires unanimous roll call for passage. Roll call vote for passage. The action indicated on each item is deemed to have been considered full and action taken as worded therein. Only members of the board and the superintendent may remove an item from consent agenda. Members of the public may provide comment at the start of the consent agenda, which may convince board members or the superintendent to remove an item for further discussion. Motion. And so what I want to do is first to see if there are any public comments regarding the consent agenda.
There are none in person.
Okay, we have one
We do
person
have
and
one
we're gonna
person.
give her a couple of seconds, to write her comment. And so we're gonna have the public comment first. And then we'll talk about if we want to remove any items.
I don't see any hands on Zoom yet. either.
Okay, so just one person.
I just wanted to mention the sabbatical approvals that are on the consent agenda, that it is something that sets our district apart from some of our local districts, that we continue to give sabbaticals. And I was able to see Friday firsthand just how excited one of our recipients was. She asked me for the names of the committee so she could write personalized thank you notes. And it really does energize teachers. For some who have not yet applied for and may never apply for it, just the concept that it's available helps them get through another school year. So thank you to the board for that. And we look forward to continuing to see them approved year after year.
Thank you so much. That actually was one of the items that I wanted to remove, so I can have a comment. So I'm going to ask to remove it for 13.2 so I can comment on it. Any others? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, it has to be roll
Oh, it has to be roll call. Sorry. Roll call.
Student trustee Argawal,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev, trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
So I wanted to remove, it's so funny, Edith, we must have been on the same wavelength. I actually wanted to remove 13.2 because I was so excited about the proposals that were written.
Point of order, 13.2 is not the sabbatical one.
It's
It's
not
13.6.
13.6?
Oh, shoot. 13.6, so I messed up.
That's fine.
Is it okay if we vote again for 13.6 to be removed?
Okay,
Is that okay? It's 13.6. I must have wrote the wrong one.
so in addition,
No, I don't want 13.2. I
Quick
wrote,
question. How would that work if we already approved 13.6 and we didn't approve 13.2? So we have to vote first to approve
can she just
13.2?
make a comment?
so we have to fix it. So basically, I made a mistake. I want to revote that we keep 13.2, remove 13.6.
Motion,
Motion, please.
So moved.
second.
Second.
Roll call.
Student trustee Argawal,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev, trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes. I'm still in Cincinnati, y'all. Sorry.
Motion passed as amended.
Oh, now I can speak on 13.6. So I wanted to to pull this out as a highlight. That we have several sabbaticals, but I want to kind of read for what people can hear and just it touches my soul because I do think a lot of it falls within our last LCAP goals around diversity, inclusion, belonging, creating a welcoming environment so that students can learn and excel. So looking at improving Spanish and fine arts, or doing mindfulness and helping us with our MTSS, right? Or getting there, like I'm looking at Taja Henderson, who's our EDC equity and diversity coach, getting her doctorate in educational leadership and social justice, or someone traveling around, some of our Asian countries because of the diversity of our Asian students. And we don't always talk about that, especially some of our ones that are monolingual and learning and saying different languages. And so I hear that more at Carmont, and I also heard it at Tide that we do have some monolingual parents. And so I'm always thinking about the small populations of families that we continue to need to serve, or equity in grading, or learning about the different Latin countries that families come from so that we can better understand their education system to make that bridge, especially for our English language learners, our ELD students. So I was just really impressed with how it not only fit in with the academic excellence piece, but also the belonging in the cell, which we know is not an or, it's an and. And so I was just very excited and to see the gifts within our district as we continue to grow in this area of meeting diverse needs, but also getting ready for all of our students to excel in the global society. And they can't excel unless our teachers and our staff are, because they can't give what it is that they don't receive. So I just wanted to highlight that. So just want to put that out there. Does anybody want to say anything about this? If not,
Yeah,
okay, right
I'll
here.
say a quick thing, since you haven't pulled off the consent. I do look forward to hearing some of the presentations from this year's recipients of the sabbatical leaves and continue to want to, because all of them offer, we can present to the board if we're given the opportunity to. So I think the board is very interested in understanding their experience and how they're taking it back and sharing best practices or incorporating it into the school culture and curriculum. I think that's very good, helpful information for the board to have.
I think as a social worker, we never got to take sabbaticals, but my friends in medical and school gets to do, and education get to do these sabbaticals. So I think it's a gift. I do have one question for you, Crystal. What has been done in the past when they say they want to do a presentation for the board? I don't have an example of that.
Actually, I think when they finish, they either come back in the fall or we will schedule presentations, but they have presented to the board. Mhm.
So we'll look to put those presentations in the fall. Okay. All right. So do we want to make a motion on 13.6?
So moved.
A second?
Okay. And then we have to do roll call,
Mhm.
correct?
Student trustee Argywell,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev,
Yes.
trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'm trying to figure out where my pack is. Hold on, let me see where I'm at. I think. Trying to find them. Yes. Okay, so we're here. Sorry, we're at informational items. So now we're going to get a presentation of Sequoia Union High School District's Sunshine Negotiation Reopener proposal to STDA for the 2023-2025 school year. So I'm going to turn that over to Todd. Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, Board President Stevenson, Board Member Superintendent Leach, Todd Beal, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. For this past negotiation cycle, we agreed to a 2-year agreement with reopeners, stating that we would come back part of this year to discuss certain items for further negotiations. So as part of that process, we have to do an initial proposal or a sunshine proposal, which we provide or present to the board and the public. So I'll read what that is for this year. So pursuant to Government Code 3547, the Sequoia Union High School District presents the following reopeners to the 2023-2004 collective bargaining agreement with the Sequoia District Teachers Association. This proposal is based upon the district's interests and principles. These interests and principles include maximizing the achievement of all students by providing quality education so that all students are engaged and prepared to excel in a global society, compliance with legal mandates, and maintaining a fiscally responsible multi-year budget. So the articles that we have, first is Article 11, it's wages for the 24-25 school year. Additionally, during this last negotiation as part of the tentative agreement, we agreed to go and develop some committees on the following. One is Schedule C, look at the athletic and activity stipends. The other one is on counselor caseloads, discussions in those areas for our committees. And the other one is a contract cleanup in which the groups get together and review the contract and make any kind of clerical changes that we feel would be appropriate. So that is the district's presentation for Sunshine Agreement.
Do we have any public comments?
There are none.
Okay. Any trustee or student trustee comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to go to some of the discussion items that we have. No, we have another information item. I apologize. So we're going to get an update on Living the Promise College and Career Memorandum of Understanding between Sequoia Union High School District, Ravenswood City School District, Kenyatta, and CSU East Bay and San Francisco State. I know we have some folks online from Ravenswood. I just want to see, should we do public comment before you speak or after Bonnie?
Sounds fine.
Mal, okay. Can we do any public comments right now? No public comments?
None in person. We can ask if there's anyone on.
Online want to do a public comment? Okay. Up, Jenny Bloom, trustee Jenny Bloom.
Hi, Jenny, go ahead.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having this as an agenda item. I'm always looking forward to seeing how we can continue to keep this MOU moving through all of our districts. So thank you so much. I just also want to say that we're so excited to be able to bring some of our middle school kids into the community college during their intersession. And it was connected to this Living the Promise MOU. And I'm excited to see how these type of relationships and partnerships continue for our middle school students into high school and into college. So thank you again for partnering with us and also for hosting this partnership as all of our school districts are. And I'm looking forward to seeing even more of this work being done together. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
Thank you, members of the board, Superintendent Leach. I don't feel like I need to say anything after Jenny Bloom. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring up Stephen Redmond. We're in year 2 of Living the Promise and excited about the good work that he and his team are doing in collaboration with our district partners.
Thank you, Bonnie. Again, my name is Stephen Redmond. I'm the Executive Director for Middle College and College and Career. I'm excited to present Superintendent Leach, Board President Stevenson, Board of Trustees, and Cabinet. I want to just give an update of year 2 of the MOU. As stated before, this is an MOU comprised of the partners listed up: Kenyatta Community College, Sequoia Union High School District, Cal State East Bay, Ravenswood, and San Francisco State. This is a 5-year MOU. Sorry. Major components of the MOU. And it's funny, this being year 2 for me in this position. I think first, when you look at the MOU, it's a wide range of activities really focused around supporting our students, not only before they get to school, while they're here, and what happens to them after they graduate. And it's really about exposing them to college and careers, and this work that I'm very passionate about. So I'm excited about this MOU. Even more excited being in it, because I think the first year was just learning about it, understanding it, and moving in it. There's some things I want to highlight that I think we've done a great job. You see the major components of the MOU. I'm not going to go through because I did that last year. But if you focus, it's really around college access. Some of the highlights listed: hiring key staff, myself, a student success liaison, Louisa Song, and our counselor, Lisa McCann. And the work was really about bringing us on to be able to facilitate a lot of the work that has happened. One of the highlights that started last year was the Joint Equity Academy. And this academy was a collaboration between Kenyatta, President Lopez and her team in Kenyatta, working with Crystal Leach and our team. And we had participants able to work through equity and what that means at both institutions. And both institutions were able to have their leadership work together and go through this past year, basically 2 days of activities, and really talk and have heart-to-heart conversations on what equity means. And not just talk about it from a dictionary definition standpoint, but giving clear examples on what equity means. And for someone who participated in it, I learned a lot from it because it gave people a chance to kind of stand in who they are and really develop ideas and how to move forward in both institutions. So I thought it was a great example of the two, Kenyatta and Sequoia Union High School District working together. Second, when we talk about next steps for our students, last year we had 2,200 students receive acceptance letters from Kenyatta. You know, the idea is really focusing on Kenyatta being the home community college for our students. When I'm out talking to the community, one of the, you hear different, so you hear CSM, which is nothing wrong with CSM, and you hear Foothill, but just, you know, really connecting the community that Kenyatta is their home college. It's a beautiful place, not just for looks, but there's opportunity for students there and really being proactive about that. Last year, we also were able to send juniors and seniors enrollment letters into concurrent enrollment programs. Again, giving students in high school opportunity to get started on college, get that experience while they're in high school. Next piece, early college access. Now, if you look on here, you see dual enrollment. And just to be clear, this is the dual enrollment associated with the MOU. So it's really focused on Kenyatta. But I also want to highlight the work that's been done through Tiffany Burkle and her team and Foothill, because there are other dual enrollment opportunities that our district is taking advantage of. But this is the numbers that you see are really focused on Kenyatta. So we had an increase from 377 to 723 in 1 year. And one of the things I'm excited about that is the new course that we started this year at U.S. History at Woodside High School. And it's a co-teaching model between a teacher at Woodside and a professor at Kenyatta, and really giving the students the best of both worlds. And I'm excited about the continued growth in dual enrollment, and we look only to get better in that area. Next is middle college, which is my baby. We actually, if you look at the numbers from last year and this year, currently this lists 96. We're currently at 92 students, and a projection to be close to 130 next year. We're actually on track to meet that mark, and I'm excited about giving different students the opportunity to benefit from middle college. And middle college is a great program. You know, focused on juniors and seniors. And again, it's starting that college experience while they're in high school. One of the things, if you come to the campus or hear from our students, you hear about, you know, how many credits they can gain while in high school. Our students graduate between 40 and 50 college credits, transferable credits that they can use. So I'm excited about the growth in that area. And I want to give kudos to the team. We have 4 teachers up there who really work hard to make sure our students are successful. Next, and this was mentioned earlier, Ravenswood. For this year, Ravenswood has been a focus of really connecting to Cesar Chavez Middle School and its students while they're in middle school, and really planting the seed for them so they're able to have that experience before they come to Sequoia Union High School District. So this year we've been able to, we table once a month where we go to meet students, talk to them about some of their choices and future ideas. We've been able to focus on the spring break camp, and you're going to hear or see a video about a midwinter break camp that we had this year. And we had 60 students come during their winter break. They were to come up to the Kenyatta's campus. They were able to hear a student panel. They saw demonstrations by the cultural center at Kenyatta. They were able to go in classes. And the highlight of the visit was they got an opportunity to play on a new field, the soccer field, with the Kenyatta soccer team. So when you see the video, you'll see the excitement of the students. And long-term, we really want to focus on internships and, you know, working experiences for students, not only getting them up there, but getting them the opportunity to participate in some of the programs. So this collaboration with Boys and Girls Club, and it serviced students from East Palo Alto and Redwood City. Next steps, moving forward, again, the MOU, we're in year 2, so we're continuing to work from year 1. We're, like I said, focused on the Ravenswood City School District. Moving forward, we're going to move focus to Sequoia District Adult School. Really, focus on students that have not graduated or might be taking ESL classes, but giving them the same opportunity that we're given for our Sequoia Union High School District. And lastly is really developing a pathway where students get, we're working on priority admittance to CSU, East Bay, and San Francisco State. They are 2 of the closest schools, and we really want to highlight those schools so students get an opportunity to stay local and obtain the degrees in the areas that they choose. Now, you're hearing from me, but it's best for you to see this video, and I hope it brings joy to your eyes that the way it did for me, because seeing those students up on Kenyatta's campus was a great experience, as you heard from one of the members in the audience.
And I had a dream that someday I would just fly away. And I always knew I couldn't stay. So I had a dream that I'd just fly away. I've been on my own for a minute. Is it only me out there? Searching for the place to begin it. Is it me? Is it you? Is it fear? Standing on the line I was given. People stare and ask me why I'm here. No one seems to think that I fit in. That I don't wanna be like them. No, 'cause I don't wanna be like them. 'Cause I know that I had a dream that someday I would just fly away. And I always knew I couldn't stay. So I had a dream that I'd just fly away. I fly away. No one knew how low I was feeling. I was scared to reach for it all, knowing I was here for a reason. But I was scared that if I tried, I'd fall. So where do I go now that I'm in it? I never thought it'd be like this. Dreamed it all my life and I did it. Thought the grass was greener than it is.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
'Cause I had a dream that someday I would just fly away. And I always knew I couldn't stay. So I had a dream that I'd just fly away. I fly away.
One more video. We do not own the rights to the music. And I just want to end, this is the first phase of the exposure portion. We're actually planning a summer event now, which will incorporate middle school students and also include high school students. So if there's one word that I would say focus as far as the MOU is exposure, and I think it's important to doing that at a young age so students can see what's available to them. So thank you for President Leach, the board for approving this MOU. And then as much as great work we've done already, I'm excited about the work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was just writing down a note for myself. I'm going to turn it over to comments to maybe start with our student trustees, if you have anything to say or any questions.
I don't have a question. I just have a quick comment that this is absolutely amazing to see, especially with the number of students in middle college, number of high school students within middle college. I feel like there sometimes and historically has been kind of the stigma of selecting middle college means choosing academics over like social experiences, but with that many people and with the environment that you're creating, it's kind of great to see that that isn't in fact the case, and you know, to disprove that.
Thank you.
Any other comments from our student trustees?
No, I'm just echoing that this is really great to see, and I'm glad that the district is taking this initiative.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to our online trustees, Trustee Nori or Trustee Ginn.
Yeah, I can go first. So this contract predates my time on the board, but I really enjoyed the presentation. I'm glad to see the progress we made since we heard about this MOU from last year, and I look forward to hearing more in the future. So thank you for all the great work.
Thank
Trustee
you.
Ginn.
Yeah, thanks, President Stevenson. So I just have one question, or maybe it's a partial question. Do you attribute the growth in enrollment to the exposure program that you're highlighting entirely, or are there other reasons? Kind of, I see the impressive growth you've had in recent year and the projected growth going forward, and I'm wondering how much you attribute that to the exposure program that you showed us video of, and if there are other things, and kind of what's driving your projections for the future.
It's more about outreach. One of the things middle college has been, the statement that I say, it's the best kept secret in the district, and it's what we've seen. It's the same repeat families and students, whether it's a cousin, sibling, which is great, and we love having those students there. But in the past, since I've been here, we've been trying to outreach more to get a wider range of students, and we actually are seeing that in a new group. So it's really, I think it's more about promoting it, getting out to the sites, holding meetings at the sites. When I showed the data last year, the majority of the students come from Woodside and Carlmont. So we're really doing more outreach at Sequoia and MA, and really trying to get a wider range of students that could take advantage of it. So I think that's what you're seeing in your numbers, and I'm expecting those numbers to grow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Ms.
just
Hanson?
wanted to add to that I don't think Stephen gave himself nearly enough credit. He has really been beating the pavement in forming relationships with students and spending time on our campuses. I've also been really blown away by the amount of time he's spent at Ravenswood Middle School this year. He knows a lot of kids that are on a first name basis. They hang out with him at lunch. And I think that that was evident in the big group of students who we saw in the picture who chose to spend a chunk of their spring break at a place that he told them about. So winter break, sorry, I'm trying to fast forward the year. So I just think that, I mean, Stephen's good at so many things, but one of his greatest strengths is his ability to build relationships. And I think he's made middle college, I think he's made a lot of students feel like they do belong at middle college.
Trustee Dubois.
Thank you so much for this presentation, and thank you for your work. I remember when the initiative was sort of signed off, that big ceremony, and there was so much excitement, not only in our district, but throughout the community. And that excitement is even higher. Trustee Stevenson and I heard about it when we were meeting with the trustees from Ravenswood, and we hear about it in the community. So thank you. And I appreciate the videos. I really do, because it gives us just kind of a front row seat to the student experience. So really exciting work. Thanks.
Yeah, like trustee Nori said, this predates my time on the board, but it's really exciting to see more details about it. And I was very impressed also by that dual enrollment growth, because it seemed to double in 1 year. And so I was curious, like what kinds of classes are attractive to students, because that's not the full middle college program, but they're taking what, 1 or 2 classes, or if you could go into a little more detail, that'd be great.
So the dual enrollment is separate from middle college.
Yeah, yeah.
So the dual enrollment focused, we have some schools that are focused on CTE, which, students pick, but we're trying to find more classes that are core classes so more students have access, which is why I'm excited about the U.S. history, why that was a jump. And we're looking at doing it at other sites also. So it's really about giving students who aren't AP students, who aren't, picking certain areas, still able to earn college credit while they're in high school. So just providing those resources and opportunities for students. And it really takes a good collaboration, because in the co-teaching model, you need, a strong teacher from our side and from the Kenyatta side to work together to best support the students.
Thank you.
I actually texted trustee John Pimentel from the college district. Him and I came on our districts at the same time, and before I could even be sworn in, he was talking about getting kids to come to Kenyatta. And him and I had a whole conversation around what makes it difficult for students in some parts of Redwood City, but also Menlo Park and East Palo Alto to take advantage of the classes. And it was difficult conversations, because I even went to Bonnie, I'm like, do you guys talk about the difficulties? And she's like, yes. And so I think he was so passionate about how we can get kids to access community college, as that was his experience. And so this was really birthed out of this automatic application process that it actually didn't go that way. It actually turned into something more beautiful that, when you talk about not being in the how or the what. Yeah. I'm the what, not the how. So when we turned over the how to our experts, it turned into something else more beautiful. And so that's what this is. And I know from living and being and having young adults in East Palo Alto, our kids don't often go to Kenyatta. They actually go to Foothill for various reasons. And no slam to Kenyatta. I just think there's some barriers there that are a challenge to overcome. But because of this MOU, they were like, we're going to buckle down and do this because we want our kids back, or we want the future kids. So I'm excited to see this happening. I heard a statement from a different person, but they said, we believe in them until they can believe in themselves. And so when I think of this project, it's our district believing deeply in our kids, because whatever we believe is what we do, and whatever we do is what we think. And if we think that our kids are great and that they can do well and excel in college, then we start designing things that gives that message even before they think that they can. So I want to say thank you for believing in our kids. I know every program has its ups and downs, but the numbers speak for themselves. And I know people are hearing, because I hear about you in the community. That's one thing about being 2.2 square miles. People start talking, good and bad. So it's been good. So I'm excited to hear that you're at Ravenswood. And I know that they're very, very proud that their students get to be in deep partnership with us. And it starts with the leaders. And then it starts trickling down, because the way you lead is the way our kids feel, and then they're going to come. And I do believe whatever you're doing to cultivate relationships, that is the change agent for a lot of our students. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to share that with you. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Now we're gonna go to discussion items.
We have one more info.
Oh, man, what's up with me? All right. Thank you. I'm so sorry. More information items. All right, Todd, I really do want to hear about this. It's 14.3, presentation by the Diversity Leadership Institute via Zoom.
All right, thank you. First of all, I gotta say thank you for Steve and the program he's put together. It's very exciting. Wish my kids had that opportunity. So I'm sure the students that are involved right now are probably really excited. So thank you on that. So what we're excited to bring forward to the HR side is our partnership with the Diversity Leadership Institute. As part of our LCAP goals, we're looking at our recruitment and retention aspect, especially with the focus out of our BIPOC population. There was also a focus of the human resources audit that took place a year and a half ago. And we're doing piece by piece. We're trying to get through that audit. There was a lot that was into it. And this is just one thing that tied right into the audit as well as into the LCAP goals. What we are pleased with is we're creating a partnership with the Diversity Leadership Institute. And this is an opportunity for our BIPOC educators who are looking and to get their administrative credential and into the leadership roles, an opportunity to work within a grant in which they receive up to $30,000 to get their credential and through a very prestigious college. Our Director of Human Resources, Freedom Siam, is leading this partnership with the district and working with the and getting the grant put together. I don't want to take too much of her thunder on this one, but I just wanted to get this to present. Who we have with us today is Yvette Meza Vega. She was one of the people who reached out to us as well, and to get this partnership together, she's been crucial, and for us to try to get the grant moving forward. So I will turn this over to Yvette, and Yvette, I will be the remote. So just let me know when you want me to change slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it is lovely to be here with you all this evening. I know it's looking a little dark on my end, but I am seeing the screen nice and bright. But my name is Yvette Meza Vega, and like Todd mentioned, we are working together to submit a grant application to receive funds in order for administrative candidates who are diverse and get access to programming around culturally responsive school leadership. And so our organization did quite a bit of work on the advocacy front to get this grant and move this grant into a request for application. And the grant's called the Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative, short for DELPI. If you Google it, you probably will find it. So we're super excited to be in the thick of writing the grant, and happy to share more about what the diversity and leadership does, and what this partnership, could entail or will entail. You can go ahead and move forward. I'll start off by very briefly sharing a little bit about the Diversity and Leadership Institute and who we are. So our mission is to create equitable outcomes for Black and Latinx students, and really all of our students. And our vision is to be able to increase the number of racially diverse and culturally competent education leaders across California, with the aim and the hope that we're creating more equitable public school systems, as well as contributing to the improved academic, social, and emotional well-being of youth, particularly our Black and Latino students. But of course, we want this for all of our students. And part of our focus on Black and Latino students is because we know that they're frequently and consistently underperforming across every measure in state testing. And you can go on to the next slide. And I'll, if I'm able to, or maybe I can share this with Todd, but happy to share a research study that was led by our CEO, Dr. Laura McGowan Robinson. And this research is titled Charting the Course to Equity. And what what we found in this research is that students at schools with a leader of color scored significantly higher on state tests, especially in high school. And you see the performance across ELA and math across all students, Latinx students, and African American students. The jump, and my dog is excited about these results. You might hear him in the background. But these results, you know, you see these across, like the improvement across all students, but even more significantly across our African American students. And that, for many reasons, is crucial. And so, you know, I think the highlight here is that all students benefit from a leader of color. We also found, and you can feel free to move on to the next slide, that leaders of color reduce suspension rates, again, across all students. You see in the purple here, the high school averages, and then when there's a leader of color, those are the averages, and they are lower for all students. There's a significant decrease for our Latinx students, and again, an incredible decrease for our African American students. And we know how critical it is to ensure that our students are in classes, are in schools, learning the material that's necessary and feeling like there's a safe environment when they are coming into the school. And engaging with their leaders, their teachers and school leaders. And so you can feel free to move on. And then we also, you know, because of this information, DLI, of course, like many of us, and we know this, but we were curious around the diversity, whether the diversity of California students was reflected in principals. And, you know, there's no surprise that we found that it is not. 60% of public school students are African American and Latinx. However, 32% of public school administrators in California identify as such. And when you really, and this 32% includes home office roles. So when we really break this down, it's more like 19%. And so diversity and representation is important in our classrooms, and it's also important across school leadership. And so what we put together, and this is the speaks a little bit more about the partnership piece, and you can feel free to move on to the next slide. And the next slide, what we have and provide is our Aspiring Principals of Color Fellowship. That's a research-based 16-month cohort experience designed to create and develop transformational aspiring and rising school leaders of color across California. And we're super proud to say that our program is developed by and for leaders of color in partnership with Loyola Marymount University. We have a region in the Bay as well as a region in Los Angeles. And LMU has a satellite location, so they don't, you know, our Bay fellows don't commute to SoCal. But the program is focused on 3 components. One, culturally responsive school leadership development that was adopted by Muhammad Khalifa's work on culturally responsive school leadership and his framework. Secondly, racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is a huge focus of what we do. And we know equally how important it is to make sure we're moving outcomes for students. And so our fellows leave the program with a deep understanding of what excellent instructional practices look like. And then the last piece, global view and perspectives within systems and structures. This is really talking about the composition of our cohorts and our fellowships. They're incredibly diverse with leaders who have experience teaching in and out of the state, who come to us either working at a charter network, a school district, and overall have a wide range of experiences when it comes to their both their education experience and their experience in leadership. And as I mentioned, you know, it is in partnership with Loyola Marymount University, and by the time our fellows leave the program, they receive their preliminary admin credential. And currently, we have 95% of our fellows receiving that by the time they complete the program. And then I'll share a little bit more, so feel free to move on to the next slide. It is the cohort structure is hybrid, so fellows do meet on select Saturdays for 2 hours per class. It is divided into 3 semesters, but our fellows do not meet over the summer. We know it's important for them to get their rest, maybe go on vacation, and simply just step away from some of this work. And then they also meet a hybrid, via Zoom, and then have some asynchronous modules to complete. We also provide mentorship. So during the 16 months of the program, fellows receive one-on-one mentorship from leaders who have been practitioners in the field. And they also receive mentorship 10 months beyond the program. So that is a little over 2 years of mentorship. And that's also a very incredibly intentional component to our work, because we know that based on research that teachers who have a great mentor in their first year, as well as leaders, remain in the profession for a longer period of time. Our fellows also engage in a 360 assessment, and this is, they engage in this in the first 2 months, and they identify and reflect on our 5 core competencies, which is a lot of what our work is based off of. And they identify their areas of strength, areas of growth, but this is also where managers and colleagues are able to provide anonymous feedback. And then they create their learning individualized plan to focus on their growth the remainder of the time. And there is an optional opportunity for fellows to receive their master's in school administration at an additional cost to the fellow. You can feel free to go to the next slide. Here's a quick overview of our 5 core competencies. This is what we've put together in terms of what we define as equity-centered leadership. And again, lots of this work developed by based off of Mohammed Khalifa's work and his framework on culturally responsive school leadership. And so our competencies, you see these across the coursework, the sessions that DLI provides to fellows, the 360 assessment, and even the process through like our work with LMU and the Cal APA cycles. You can go on to the next slide. This is just a quick glimpse of our fellowship. And, we started off initially when we launched the fellowship in the Bay. And now we have our cohort in Los Angeles. And we're really excited about this next cohort that will be starting this fall. And any questions? I'm like, there's quite a bit that I can share, but I'm curious if there are any questions as I'm coming at the end of my time.
We'll do questions at the end. Oh, you're done. Okay.
Well, then, yes, great, I'm done. But at the end of the slide deck, and happy to also share this with Todd, whatever way is the best way to share with everyone. Happy to share my contact information in case any of you have any questions, want to connect about the program in general, or want to learn more. I'm also happy to share one-on-one.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think I neglected to ask the audience if they had any public comments.
I have no cards in person.
And no online?
No one has raised their hand yet.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to our student trustees. Do you have any questions regarding this? Okay, Trustee Dubois?
I don't think I have any questions, but it was a great presentation and I enjoyed it.
Any other trustees have any questions, comments?
Oh, I have a quick question. So, thank you for the presentation. I appreciated it too. So one of the questions I just wanted to pose to you, and maybe the district at large, is one of the things that kind of struck me with this presentation is, I'm sure you're aware, one of the groups that we do struggle with is our Pacific Islander students in terms of, the gap that they might have, and especially even within the Asian student demographic. I think there's vast diversity into how certain subgroups perform versus others. So I wondered if you had any thoughts, or if your program was designed or had any plans to sort of address that some of these subgroups specifically within the Asian demographic that also, our district could do a lot better to serve.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it also happens across so many different other ethnicities. And so although it's not a focus, it is by and large by the design of the program is such it does touch on creating more equitable outcomes for all our students. And so, based on the research that I shared initially, you see that all students of color are benefiting from a leader, or all students, period, are benefiting from having a leader of color in their schools. And so I think even though it's not necessarily, specifically designed or focused on Pacific Islander, like the Pacific Islander community, I think by design and by the work that we do, and also yeah, by design, it's very much doing that for all of our students, and trying to increase outcomes for all our students. And I think, even though we say and we have this intentional focus around our Black and Latino students, we want all our students to succeed. And so that's something that we hold near and dear to our heart. I think something else that where this could come up and does come up is when our fellows, they actually identify an equity gap issue as well. So this is something that wasn't in the presentation, but they identify an equity gap issue that's specific to their school community at the start of the program. And then throughout the 16 months, they focus on essentially building a professional learning community within their school, building buy-in, creating solutions across all of the stakeholders that would be impacted, and then executing on some of those solutions. And then that work actually becomes a part of their presentation at the end of the program. And so it very well could be that there is an intentional focus around a very specific community. Other presentations or issues that have been brought up are like attendance, especially after COVID. That has been a big one. Suspension rates continue to be another one. And then the issues also vary year over year.
Any other questions, Trustee Nori?
I think I see one.
Oh, Trustee Dubois, you had your hand up?
I was gonna ask something.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify. So then the partnership really begins with you helping with the grant application, is that it? And so then once it's complete, that's when people can participate in the fellowship. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, there are different ways to partner with us. We've had districts and previous partners who have sponsored fellows out of pocket. We now are in a position where there is statewide funding for this, and our team advocated for this quite a bit over the past year. And so now we're at the point where there's $10 million of state funding for programs like DLI. And so with Sequoia Union, we would be partnering to submit a Delpi grant application, which by default would mean, and fingers crossed that we get the grant, we're really hopeful, then that means that Sequoia, and currently they're recruiting members into our fellowship, then they would send their candidates to our fellowship for the next 3 years. And that's the next 3 years. I say that because of the life of the grant. And yeah, I think that answers the question, but feel free to share if you have more questions.
Trustee Ginn?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to understand the process. So if the grant were awarded, then employees of our district could apply to participate in the program? And then is there a selection process, or is everyone who applies get accepted?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. So if the grant goes through, this district would identify candidates or would share this fellowship opportunity with their candidates. Then the candidates apply to our program. And then from there, we have a selection process, so they submit initially it's a pre-application where they essentially just identify some of the, like the pre-application is to make sure that they're eligible, right? We want to make sure they have a California Clear credential, that they have enough teaching experience so that they are able to receive their admin credential at the end of our program. Then they submit a formal application, which has a DLI component and an LMU component. From there, we review applications, then invite folks into the interview process. So we have an in-person interview. So it is quite a competitive and selective process. And then from there, we go through and make the final selection. And so that's a little bit about like recruitment and selection. And so with Sequoia, we would be doing that this year, next year, and then the year after that, and hopefully beyond that. But I say 3 years because of the life of the grant.
And is race a factor in your decision of whether to admit an applicant?
No, we welcome everyone to apply. We have again, an incredibly diverse groups across Bay and LA, and our cohorts, you know, you see hopefully a variety in there in these pictures. But yeah, nope.
I do have a couple of questions. When I think about our LCAP particularly, and the number of students who are at the low are African American, Pacific Islander, and Latino. So when I'm thinking, I know one of the comments I made last time was wondering about our strategies that are more culturally responsive in nature. And was that you? That's okay. And so looking at that as a strategy to improve our numbers, because I do think we do a lot in our district, but I'm wondering about strategy, right? For some of our students, that representation is really important. And so I'm wondering, is that part of the focus for this particularly? I just wanted to follow up with what Trustee Ginn was saying. So is this open and targeted and then others can apply, or are you really trying to target communities of color in leadership?
I mean, I think our mission is to target leaders of color. And again, the application and anyone is able to apply. We've had folks who interview who do not identify as leaders of color. You know, everyone is welcome to apply, and we want all our leaders to be culturally responsive across all our schools. So there's that piece. In terms of, I think there was another part of your question initially around the strategy component.
It had to do with our LCAP, which you have, I don't know if you've seen it, but we had a presentation where there were low numbers, and they were particularly in EL or math, sometimes suspensions, those kinds of things. Meaning low, meaning like we scored low in that area as part of our assessment. And it was particularly in the areas of Pacific Islanders, and African American and Latinx. Those were the areas. It wasn't the same across the board, but there were like different outcomes for different folks.
Yeah.
Up on that real fast again for us. I know this is working in coordination with the rest of our departments, as well as we're looking for our areas for growth. And so on the HR side of things, these are one of those areas we believe that would help our students in general in those areas. As we know, the people themselves are what help our students. So with this focus, you know, we're trying to get our leaders prepared, and the opportunity for teachers to become those leaders to help our students in those areas.
Thank you. I do have one other question. There's one thing to recruit and prepare. There's another piece to retain, right? So does diversity and leadership help with strategies to retain, because they've done some research and work around culturally responsive leaders?
I'll just jump in that real quick, Yvette, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong. But part of the presentation that was in here, as you see, was the mentorship. And that goes a long way to be able to continue with that retention model for the coaching aspect. I think, and I'll go as a former administrator myself, I didn't have that opportunity for a one-on-one mentorship but it's always needed. And so when we're starting to look at these opportunities, working with our certain groups such as DLI, is to have that opportunity for a mentorship to continue that retention aspect. And so I think this is where a key piece that we have with the partnership.
Okay. And then my last question is not for the Diversity and Leadership Institute, but I think I'm looking at Ms. Hanson because I know you do the Grow Your Own. So would this be in addition to that, or is this in lieu of that? Like, how does that work within our repertoire of opportunities?
This gives another option.
Oh, this is another option in
In
addition.
addition. So, and yes.
Okay.
Another opportunity again. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we still, man, that's really nice. Okay, so then your Grow Your Own, the diversity and leadership, and we still have the county option as well? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm hoping we get people to apply. That's kind of what my hope and dream
Yeah,
is.
we have fact a few people already that expressed interest in
Oh, I
doing
bet.
this. So I'll tell you, Freedom, that guy, he's a go-getter. He's already been out there, shoulder tapping like, hey, you've expressed interest before. We've got this opportunity. So he's out and about getting that going. So.
Okay, well, thank you for this. I know that that's been part of my greatest concern is how are we recruiting and retaining? And I think in the long run, it helps our students, but it also helps our teachers, especially as a social worker. When I used to work at the regional center, disabilities doesn't discriminate. It has no socioeconomic status to it. It has nothing, right? And so we always considered ourselves cultural consultants, whether it was language, geographics, racial and identity, or whether it's, lived experiences, or a person with disabilities themselves. And we really saw ourselves as consultants to each other. My hope is that we will see that in our district, not as a badge of honor, but a place of humility to share with others. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over, see if there's any other questions. Thank you. So when will we hear about the grant? If we got it.
That's for you.
Yeah, we're told we'll hear by May 10th. So, hopefully everything's aligned and that date is not pushed back, but by May 10th is what we've been told by CTC.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you all.
Thank you all so much. Have a great night.
You too. All right. Do we need to take a little bit of break? Let's do Carrie's like, can we have like 2 minutes? Let's go. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Right. She's just getting coffee, y'all. We can go ahead and keep going. It's like, no. Okay, let's go to the discussion items. First reading of the revised administrative regulation 5113, absences and excuses. And this is Dr. Chacon.
Hello, good evening, President Stevenson, Superintendent Leach, members of the board, cabinet, everyone else. I am just first letting you know that Student Services is going through something of an audit of all of our board policies. So you will begin to notice I may be coming here frequently, and you will be seeing updates of many board items, especially in the 5,000s that I'm bringing forward. If there have been any changes with CSBA, you'll notice many of these were updated last by our department in 2019, just like the ones I brought forward to the last board meeting. We're now looking at attendance. Recently, Associate Superintendent Hanson was bringing around a form that she was working through with teachers and with counselors that was connected to attendance. And as we were looking at that form, we thought, wait a minute, let's hold on that until we make sure that our attendance board policy is updated to 2024 and matches our attendance handbooks and matches any forms that we are bringing around to staff. And when we looked at that to make sure everything was up to date, we did notice that there was a small addition from 2019 to 24, and that was in items 12 and 13. The first being the excused absence for a day, limited to 1 day, for a civic or political event. And then also absences where students are participating in a religious experience that is designated by a religious group, church, or denomination. So those were the two additions that have taken place since we reviewed this in 2019.
I want to open it up to public comment first. Let's see if there's any public comments.
No public comments.
All right. Student trustees, do you have any questions or comments? Trustees online? I don't.
I'm fine with this, and I'm fine with it being on consent.
Thank you. Rich, do you have any questions? He has stepped away. So we will go ahead. Do we feel comfortable at coming back on consent? We're comfortable doing that. Thank you. All right. The first reading of the revised administrative regulation migrant education program. We have any public comments first?
No public comments.
Great, go ahead and start.
All right, so this is the second one for the evening. This one, you'll notice we have updates to both the BP and the AR. The updates to the BP being rather simple. It was listed as the governing board as being the oversight of this policy. And in fact, typically we use the language in our district board of trustees. So we made sure that that language is up to date with and in line and consistent with all of our policies. Other than that, nothing changed with the board policy. However, you will see that the administrative regulation is in fact completely new. And that's why everything on here is in red, because everything on here is an addition, an edit, was not here before. Reason being, we have been working with our county council and with SMSIG to be sure that we are covered for liability when it comes to prevention or sexual misconduct on campus. And in order for them to provide coverage for us, we need to have this policy in place. And, you know, secondly, just because it's important to have this policy in place so that students and staff know their protections when it comes to any sort of sexual misconduct or abuse on school campuses.
I wanted to note I said the wrong number, 16.2. So I'm going to open it back up for public comment because I made a mistake, Dr. Chacon. Anyone have any comments about 16.2, the first reading of BPAR 5141.43, prevention of sexual misconduct and abuse in schools? I just want to say thank you. This is an important one with our society. So I do appreciate this. Any other comments? We are okay with putting this on consent?
Yes.
Okay. Now to the other one that I misread, 6.3, first reading of revised administrative regulation 6175 migrant education program.
All right, we're back for more. You have already adopted the same verbiage for foster youth, students experiencing homelessness, students of military, whose parents are military, and a very similar policy, which was for juvenile court students, but only after they had finished 10th grade, that allows them to be given credit for courses that they transfer into us with that are partially done. We still do not have any CSBA model language on this, but our council confirmed on Thursday that yes, green light, you can now go ahead and add this into the policy for your migrant students. So that is in green font. This is a Bonnie Hansen, no attorney background job. And so the bolded underline green is when they got back to me after the weekend with their edits of my edits. And I have to say, I think I did a pretty darn good job. You should check it out. Very minimal on their part. So even a broken clock is right twice a day. So I would encourage you to adopt this language. I will be back with one more of these, and that is for newcomer students, because there was ed code that was adopted around it that is not yet in CSBA, and our council is currently trying to find where we could put that because there's not a lot of policy right now around newcomer. So stay tuned.
Any Oh, did I do public comment?
No, sorry, I jumped in.
Oh, okay. Is there any public comment?
No comments.
Any comments from our student trustees and our board of trustees? I just have one question. So it has military on here, and I was just thinking about this, or I would have asked before. In our system, our technology system, do we note if they're military?
We do.
kids?
We don't have very many in our district. but we
Okay, do they know to let you know?
Oh, yeah, it's part of when you register.
Oh, it is part of
Yeah.
when you register.
Yep.
Okay, so that was my only question. So we're okay with bringing this back for consent? Great, thank you. We now have action item 17.1. Approval of the request for declaration of need for qualified educators 2024-2025 school year. Do we have any public comments?
No.
No? Okay, you can go ahead and present.
Okay, thank you. So this is an annual action item that we bring forward. What the state of California requires us to do is to project who we think is basically going to be an emergency credential for the upcoming year. Right now, we put down the 10, and then we identify certain groups that we believe we may have to have someone for an emergency credential. And usually these are our hard to fill positions, such as science, math, which is going to be our majority of what we have in here. So with the projections, again, we look at as a possibility, and then we add more. We want to make sure that we're safe in case for some other reason we can't fill these positions with the fully credentialed individuals. We have very few this year, and we've actually had very few the last few years. We do a pretty good job and be able to get, for the most part, those are fully credentialed teachers.
All right, any questions? Okay, so this is for actual approval, correct?
Correct.
So do we do, I don't think we do a roll call.
We need a motion and a
We
second,
need a
then roll call.
motion.
So moved to approve this item?
My second?
Roll call.
Ro-
Student trustee Agawam,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev,
Yes.
trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes,
Motion approved.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna do 17.2, approval of Sequoia Union High School District Transportation Plan. Want to open it up for public comment?
I do have one comment card in person.
All right.
I
We
like,
have one public comment.
I'd like to call up Abby Corman.
Hi, last year I spoke on this same item. Many students in our district are frequently tardy and absent, especially after the pandemic. And I commend us as a district for creating the new community liaison position at each site in an effort to help support students and families in overcoming some of the obstacles they face. But I believe transportation is another obstacle we could be better supporting our community with, especially with those new electric buses we recently purchased. All I can currently offer is anecdotes from my class, although I would be interested in knowing specific data from our district. Regularly, daily, I welcome tardy students saying, "I'm so glad you're here," no matter what time they arrive. And I reach out to absent students telling them that they were missed and asking if they're okay. With this, excuse me, using this relational pedagogy coming from a place of curiosity, through these questions, I've learned that many of my students are tardy because they walk to MA from EPA and it takes about an hour. Sometimes it's in the rain. Many of my students pay for Ubers to school, costs between $10 to $20 each way. Some of my students share that they're late because the 296 is late. In fact, it's been late multiple times each week this month at our site. And students share that the Samtrans buses sometimes are the small one instead of the larger size, despite it being a regular pickup for our school sites. In multiple parent meetings, I've heard parents share that they won't let their students take the public bus because they don't feel it's safe. But they also don't feel safe allowing their student to bike over the freeway. As I shared last year, one of my students was pushed off their bike, and the bike was stolen. But the parents aren't home to drive students to school. I'm hoping we can look into data about safety and transportation since we have to do this transportation plan yearly. How many students name transportation as an obstacle in getting to school? How many students currently rely on public transportation to get to school? How many students feel unsafe getting to school and back home? How many students have faced violence or threats going to and from school? As I know we're all eager for our students to be coming to school on time and regularly, hoping we can look at all obstacles that they may be facing and work to address them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, you want to present?
Good evening. So the home to school transportation reimbursement was implemented by Assembly Bill 181 in 22-23. It provides reimbursement funding for school districts based on the prior year expenditures. A condition for receiving the funds is for the board to approve a transportation plan, and districts will need to complete an annual report on transportation data. The plan has been included in the board packet, and our next update will be in April 2027. We ask that the board approve the transportation plan as presented.
Okay, let's open it up for questions. Student trustees, do you have any questions? Trustee Nori or Trustee Ginn?
I don't have any.
Okay. Trustee Dubois, who? Trustee Dubois has a question.
I just had that one question. I don't know if you were able to get the answer. I've heard a couple of times that other districts provide for cab service, like for foster youth that are not living close to a school site. And
We
could you
do
do that?
provide that transportation, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to get more, I want to ask for things like that. I've never heard about that. And so, I know some of our kids really need it. So if it's ever appropriate, I'd love to hear more about how many kids are served that way.
I guess the question is how do you determine that? I guess that's the question. How do they determine if they need a cab? Because you said you didn't know. but
Through
course
the
there's-
interventions, Dr. Chacon?
That is available for students who qualify under McKinney-Vento, and the determination is just made in working with the family if that's a request made. And if you know of anyone, I would say you can contact us, contact Alvaro or the site foster youth liaison to discuss further, and we can get support, help, and transportation for that family in particular.
So my husband and I took a cab to the airport twice. It's an unmarked cab. It looks like a car. And so had the same cab driver that's told me twice that he picks up foster youth. And so I love the idea that it's not obviously a cab.
Right.
Because that's one of the things that shames foster youth when they're in the county cars or marked transportation. So
Right.
do we also use
That I
type
would
of a
have to
cab?
look into,
Okay.
and I can just do a little summary of what the transportation is like in the board Friday update, if that would be helpful.
If the superintendent thinks that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, I follow my own rules.
I do understand just from percolating this week after the agenda was posted, we see a transportation plan and we get like our wheels, literally, all pun intended, start turning. And it comes up, it's come up every year since I have been here. And, you know, if it is the board's desire to dive in and reevaluate what we do for transportation of our students, that would be potentially something that we could add to the parking lot for future discussion. But I do assure you that we are active on all levels, from the superintendent to the CBO to also our director of transportation, advocating for routes with Samtrans it has become exceptionally difficult. As we struggle filling bus drivers, they also do as well. They change routes, and it is a long walk. So thank you for your comments, Abby, on that. And I think that we can always look for ways to improve that as we are a district of resource. So
I think my only comment was because, Abby, you weren't the only one who was thinking that, because I had a student had me ride on the bus with her one day. So to kind of share her different experiences. And I think by default, Bellhaven and Menlo Park get a lot of different folks, adults on the bus, and it is a long ride for a short ride. But then some of our families who are in Belmont who also take the bus, by default, it's a kid's bus because there's not a lot of adults taking it as a public school bus. But then I learned that this plan, my understanding, does not include public transportation, correct? And so that's a different process. What is that process called, Crystal?
well, it's not necessarily, it's just advocating. Samtrans has opportunities for districts to participate, which we all do. But I must say, even in my former district, it was the same challenges with public transportation. And public transportation is very popular in the Bay Area. It's not that way all throughout California. But our youth learn how to use public transportation at quite a young age. Trustee Koo and I have talked about that. But there's always room for advocating. And when we see all these dollars, and the state is focused on attendance, there are things that are outside of our control, being a high school district, and what we can actually offer with the traditional home to school transportation model. There's always room for improvement. Trustee Nori, you could add that to your advocacy list. I got a smile.
Okay. Thank you so much. Other questions? So this is an action item. So can I have a motion, please?
I move approval of this item.
Second.
Roll call. Student trustee Argyle,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev,
Yes.
trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
trustee Koo,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And Christine, you're going to be talking again for approval of 2023-2024 second interim report. Let's start with public comments.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No public comments.
All right, Christine, please go ahead.
This way.
Okay. All right, you ready?
He'll control that from his, can she control?
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So tonight we will be submitting second interim for review and approval. I will be going over the general fund, the components of ending fund balance, our multi-year projections, the summary of other funds, and our next steps in looking ahead. Just a reminder of where we are in the budget cycle. Tonight is second interim, and the next update will be year-to-date estimates when we bring the 24-25 budget for adoption. Second interim is a snapshot in time of the financial and budgetary status as of January 31st. It reflects changes to revenue and expenditures since first interim. At this time, we included the approved salary increases, adjustments to COVID carryover funds as we are spending them down, and adding any new state or local revenue and expenditures. This table is the planning factors we use for our current year and the 2 subsequent years. I know the chart is small, but I wanted to point out 2 areas in the multi-year assumptions. The COLA for 24-25 and 25-26, and the PERS rate for 24-25 and 25-26. The COLA is projected to be 0.76% for 24-25 and 2.73% for 25-26. The decreased COLA won't have an impact to our district since we're basic aid, but it will impact EPAA's funding and the Child Nutrition Universal Meal Reimbursement Rate, which means additional general fund support to balance their budget. The PERS rate are increasing in both 24-25 and 25-26, and districts are not getting additional state funding addressing the increased pension rates. Property tax at second interim remains fairly flat. The next reporting period that we will get from the assessor office will be in April. And we will see what the impact will be to our budget, and those updates will be included in the year-to-date estimates. Here's just a chart showing our revenue for the current year, which is the chart on the left. You can see that 82% of our budget is from our property taxes. On the chart on the right, it's the multi-year projection, and you can see our district is funded by property tax, and it's growing at each fiscal year. This chart represents the projected property tax transfer to the charter schools. At second interim and in the out years, we anticipate transferring less to the charters because of their declining enrollment and the reduced COLA projections. So at second interim, we are projecting our ending fund balance to decrease by $4.6 million, bringing our ending fund balance to $53 million. And that is due to 7.2 increase in revenue and an increase of expenditures of about $11.8 million. So for revenue, the 7.2 increase is due to property tax and additional increase in donations, and also carryover from COVID funds. For the expenditures, the 11.8 million increase is mainly due to the salary increase, the raise, and also the one-time purchase of capital expenditures. The $1.4 million is because of the electric buses. This is the ending fund balance at second interim, and it's broken down as follows. So 422,000 is considered non-spendable. 18 million is reserved for restricted programs, and the 9 million assigned is for items for vacation, basic aid uncertainty, because we still have the Genentech settlement, inflation, additional student support benefit, and also the charter school support and child nutrition and settlements. And we also have 19 millions for set aside for our reserve, 8%. This is a reminder of at first interim, we were projecting to deficit spend the current year and have a surplus for the 2 out years. Just wanted to show you the snapshot of first interim and what happens at second interim. So at second interim, once we included the salary increase and included the planning factors that was on slide 5, our deficit spending increases for the current year to $6.5 million. And for 24-25, at first interim, we had a surplus. Now we're deficit spending. And our surplus for the 25-26 reduces to 4.8 million compared to first interim. At first interim, we were projecting $11 million surplus. This is other funds. At year end, we're projecting them to have a positive ending fund balance, but I wanted to point out that charter fund, which is Fund 9, and the cafeteria fund, that we need to pay attention to their fund balance because of increasing costs, anticipated raises, and also because of the lower state COLA. So as we move forward, we must consider the following budget challenges or uncertainties. The state is facing a budget shortfall, which will impact education funding. The projected COLA is 0.76%, which won't have an impact on our district because we're basic aid, but it will impact, as I mentioned before, child nutrition and EPAA. It costs more to doing business. We can see gas prices increase, and the regulators just approved the PG&E rate increase. We will need to monitor our property taxes as the housing market is slowing down and how it will impact our budget in the out years. 24-25, we will begin negotiating for the 24-25 school year. Other things that may impact our budget is the ongoing discussion of our co-curricular activities and the athletics budget, EPAA declining enrollment, how we're going to continue funding positions that were funded out of one-time dollars, and any pending settlements. As we continue our budget cycle, in May, we will hear more about the governor's budget for 24-25. And the information from the May revise will be included in our 24-25 budget, which we will bring forth in June. And in September, we will report out the actuals for 23-24. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. Start with our student trustees. Do you have any questions?
No.
Questions from our trustees online first?
I just have one question relating to what you said about housing and potential impact on our property taxes. And I note that the current plan is to assume 5% straight across the board. Does that 5% recommendation reflect your current understanding of what's happening in the housing market?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Did you hear, Rich?
I heard that she said yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had one question. So I guess with the one-time COVID funds expiring, that's the 2.5 million. That's the carryover from prior year. And then when is it expiring? This coming year or?
We have some that are expiring this year, but we have some other one-time dollars that expire in 27-28.
Okay, okay. And just remind me, what are we spending the one-time COVID funds for again?
mental health positions.
Primarily student supports, mental health positions. We have really beefed up summer school the past several years and will continue to do so to use these funds.
So when you say mental health, I know that's a broad term. So help me to understand what that is.
Dr. Chacon could come up and talk about some expenses. So you actually have seen these in different plans as we brought forward that we had to when we got the money. We had regulatory plans, but we can speak in summary about it.
You know, I shut my computer down too fast. I had a as it restarts, just off the top of my head, I know that it is supporting, in the past, the one that is sunsetted was supporting attendance clerks during the time of COVID when we were getting more attendance calls and needed to give more health information. We are continuing to support in future contracts the health aides. Some of the health aides that aren't funded by the healthcare district are funded through those monies. Our Acknowledge Alliance contract is supported through the COVID one-time dollars. And, oh geez. And our, oh geez, let me pull up the spreadsheet if you give me like 2 minutes.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly.
Take your time. Is this the ESR?
There are several.
Okay, like is
There
it
are,
ESSR?
that is one of them.
Okay, I was right.
The
Okay.
ESSER is one of them, yes.
A suggestion, because that's a big question.
It
There
It is
are
a
like
very big
5
question.
of these grants, and each grant had
I mean,
anywhere
we've
from.
gotten over like $13 million, I think,
Maybe we
since
could do it in
COVID
a Friday board
inception.
update or something to refresh people. Then we'll give you a comprehensive answer instead of trying to find it.
Well, you'll get more of a detail at unaudited actuals and at budget time. Actually, at unaudited actuals. Did you find something?
I did. And I can give a few more now. And yes, there's a lot. Our Hatching Results contract, our Star Vista contract, Parent Venture contract, Acknowledge Alliance contract, are all funded through these one-time dollars as well. Moving into the Arts and Music Block Grant, 2 mental health service caseworkers that work on our team, 3 student services psychologists, 4 health aides, in addition to many, many other things. But like we said, the list is very long, but that gives you a snapshot of when you asked who mental health, that would be the list of that.
I have so many more questions, but I'm not gonna ask. At the interim report. Yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot. Considering, I know we're going through our strategic plan and that has come up across the board, across diverse families, different neighborhoods. All right. Any other question for Christine? Okay. I think one of the challenges you put was settlements. And I was like, wow, that's on there. And I think housing, it's not, the PowerPoint's not up. And there was something else that was on there. Settlements, housing, EPAA, enrollment.
I think the softening housing market that I asked about was one of
Oh,
them.
and that was the housing market. Okay, thank you. I guess I have questions, and this might be a question for you. We have all these charter programs, and I know EPAA is a dependent charter, but we have all these other programs that are also pulling away from our general funds, rightfully so, it's their right? But I'm just trying to figure out how do we plan for this financially?
Well, for the independent charters, so not the dependent charter, which is EPAA, but the independent charters, we act as a pass-through because we're basic aid. So they get funded based off of their enrollment and then with that COLA. So if you go back and you look at that slide, you'll see that really large increase for last year because it was the mega COLA. And then as they have a flat or potential negative COLA, in addition to their declining enrollment, it obviously lowers. The technical term, encroachment, onto the general fund for EPAAs because they are a dependent charter. So they are funded within the state funding requirements, okay? So of an LCFF revenue limit district, but they have our salary schedules. And you would not find a revenue limit or LCFF funded district with our salary schedules and our benefit packages. So EPAA is always going to be a little lumpsided because all the EPA staff is our staff, even though that they are a dependent charter. It is not like that with all dependent charters throughout the state. So you're always going to see that encroachment, but that's why we need to make sure that the enrollment is up. We have strong relationships with the community partners and with the EPAA Foundation.
And before that becomes a concern for us their enrollment. I mean, we're always like enrollment, but there's a difference between we want enrollment to like we're in danger of losing a site. Would we then I know we do a lot of projections and we don't wait till the last minute, but then that would be some type of plan that was done for them to.
There's a lot of conversation right now because the charter authorization for EPAA renews next year.
Okay, so it's coming up. Okay. All righty. This is an action item. And so is there a motion right now?
So
I move
move to
approval.
approve this item.
I'll second.
Second. And we're going to do a roll call.
Roll call. Student trustee Agawam,
Yes.
student trustee Yuryev, trustee Ginn,
Yes.
trustee Dubois, trustee Ku,
Yes.
vice president Nori,
Yes.
president Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I think that is our last item. Thank you all. It is 8:22. Let's see, in 8 minutes, we can do the future agenda items. Huh? 8 minutes. We can do this. I believe in us. Any future items? I heard one to talk about the sabbatical presentations. We can put that on parking lot. Is that what we want to do? Yeah, so that'll be on the parking lot.
It will just be scheduled.
Oh, it would just be
Yeah.
scheduled. Okay. And then, there is, huh? What'd you say? Yes,
Mhm.
but there was one that you said I could bring up, that we talked about me bringing up,
Okay.
which is the CIS, presentation. I know that, we get a little bit of it in the LCAP, but the actual, because I had to sign off on a lot of documents regarding that.
It's the CSACE.
It's the CSACE. That's why. I don't know if we could put more information, but it is an important action item that we do every year. And I know we get a little bit of it in the LCAP, so it's not we're oblivious to what's happening, but wondering if that should be a parking lot conversation that we have next time, but I wanted to bring it here.
So you mean like basically to have a deeper dive into it?
But we have to discuss it
Okay.
first and prioritize it and all that. Do I have 3 people? Okay, thank you. I think that was the only one, and then the board self-evaluation, we'll put that on the calendar. Any other topics? All right. We are adjourned. 8:30, y'all.
Shanice, I need signature on the second intro.
Yes, we'll do so.